Okay, to wrap up our category, we are going to talk about association and causation, and you can clearly see that association do not have a cause and effect relationship. So the number of cars traveling over a holiday weekend versus the number of accidents reported. Cars traveling is not going to impact the number of accidents. It may influence it, but it's not going to be a direct cause. There's going to be other factors to consider. Causation, they have to have a cause and effect relationship. One is definitely impacting and influencing the other, and there are no real outside factors to mess with that relationship. So calories consumed versus the amount of weight gain. Yes, the amount of calories you consume is directly going to affect the amount of weight that you gain. So now we're going to look at correlation coefficient. That's that R value. It basically is just measuring the strength in the direction of your line. It tells how close your scatter plot is to being in a straight line. And we want everything to be in a straight line, but as we know in a perfect world, when we take data, not always is the data going to be in a perfect straight line. So look here, you've got 0. That would be a random no correlation graph. There's really no relationship we can tell from the data whatsoever because all the points are just randomly splattered on your scatter plot. And then you're going to move outward. You're going to have weak, where they're kind of starting to form either a positive or negative correlation, but not really. They're still sort of random. Then you've got moderate, where now you can kind of see that line, that correlation starting to take place, and that would be when your R value is kind of in the middle between a 0 and a 1. Then you've got strong. That's when it's closest to 1. Like it is almost in a perfect line, as getting as close to it that you can get. Now remember, you're going to have a positive 1 and a negative 1. The sign of your 1 is just telling you if your correlation is positive or negative. The number itself is telling you how strong that relationship is. And we would like for our relationships or our R value to be closer to that 1. So now we're going to look at a problem. So to get your R value, you are going to have to turn on your stat diagnostics, and here's how you do that. You press the mode button, mode, and then you're going to have to arrow down till you see stat diagnostics. Stat is short for statistics. So go over to on and press enter, and now that shaded box should move to the on, and then you can just hit clear to get off of that. So we have a scatter plot here. If it says scatter plot, that's telling you line, so I can go to stat enter, and I'm going to type in my data. I'm going to go 1 to 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then now we're going to type in our data. 521, 523, 522, 519, 516, 518, 519, 518 again, 515, 516, 514, 514. Please make sure you have typed in your data accurately. If you need to pause the video to do so, please do so. All right, so now I've kind of already made a graph for you here. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to put your data on here. So I'm going to do that very quickly. 1, 5, 21, 2. And remember, you're going to have to estimate. Okay, so you can see that your data is kind of slanted downward. So now we're going to make a function. So I've got my data typed in. Now I'm going to hit stat over, and since this is a scatter plot, it's a line, so I'm going to pick option 4. I'm going to hit enter, and notice you're getting all this data. You're only concerned with A and B. That's going to tell you your slope and your y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and write this down. I've got A equals negative 0.74. My B is equal to 522.76, and so that would be y equals negative 0.74x plus 522.76. And now your R value, you're going to ignore the R squared. We don't use that statistical analysis piece of information. We just want R. So R is equal to a negative 0.887. So now I'm thinking in terms of, to interpret it, I'm looking at the sign. The sign is telling me that there is a negative correlation Okay, so the sign tells me if it's positive or negative, and you can see that it's negative in your graph because your points are slanted down. And then you're going to look at the number itself. Is this number closer to 0 or closer to 1? And if you said it's closer to 1, that's telling you that it is a strong relationship. So our data points are telling us that we have a strong negative relationship. So the water level and the number of months do have that causation, cause and effect relationship because there's a pretty strong relationship. Now we're going to predict what the water level will be after 15 months. So we're going to take our equation, and we're going to go to y equals, and we're going to type in negative 0.74x plus 522.76. And we're going to hit the second graph. And when x is 15, so f of 15 is equal to 511.66 feet, because we are talking about water level. So hopefully this helps you with scatter plots, causation, association, and your correlation coefficient.